Hey everyone, Lenny Ratecki here for Lenny Lists for Autism Awareness. Today we're going to talk about sensory sensitivities and people on the autism spectrum. Okay, we have sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, balance, and body awareness. We have these ideas as to what do we think some of those sensory issues are, but we're going to talk about those. There's both hyper and hypo. Hypersensitive means extremely sensitive to something. Hypo means a down marked degree of awareness or a sensitivity to something. First one we have sight. You can be undersensitive, okay, to sight. Things tend to look darker to this kind of person, okay. Things are blurred. Things are not sharp and crisp like for us. Or they kind of see something in the middle and then the rest of it on the outside of it is blurred. Depth perception can be extremely poor. Throwing and catching, can be extremely difficult. Clumsiness, we kind of think of somebody, a neurotypical person like this would be somebody who's considered clumsy. Okay, so that would be undersensitive with sight. Oversensitive, things bother their eyes, can be extremely distracting. Also, they fragment, things jump around, they move around too much. We list the miss the forest for the trees, pick one particular item, and that's about it. And I talk about teachers, when I talk about my kids sometimes, they see they're going to have this kind of exact same paper that they see right now is going to be identical for when they take a test or an assessment like that. Well, this one has the number 6 as the bottom, and this one doesn't have a number at all at that page. Well, to that student, it might as well be a whole nother page because they only kind of focus on that number 6. Therefore, if that's not there, they only seen that the tree, the forest, and not getting that whole global concept. Sensitivity to light can also affect sleep issues. Sleep issues are a major issue for people on the autism spectrum. Sounds, undersensitive. Can only hear in one ear. Okay, may acknowledge certain sounds, hear something, kind of goes right through them, kind of like a husband, kind of doesn't hear the wife kind of thing. Same kind of stuff for somebody on autism spectrum. A certain sound, they don't pay attention to that. Bang doors, bang objects, because those sounds, aren't an issue. The exact opposite, oversensitive. Something can count, that dripping faucet now. A neurotypical person hears that dripping faucet. That's all they can think of. Well, that fan in the classroom may sound like a jet engine. Whenever it kicks on, it sounds like a jet engine there. I've read before fluorescent light, the fluorescent going back and forth. Those sounds, the sights and sounds, a person on the autism spectrum can sometimes see that fluorescent or hear that fluorescent going back and forth. Can't block out the background noises. Everything is there. Can't filter out those noises, so it's always an issue. Always feels like a train rumbling through. Smell, undersensitive. Can't notice extreme odors. This can be a safety concern when you're talking about food. You have somebody on the autism spectrum, there's something that's a rotten food and they can't smell that it's bad, so they will eat it, will make them sick. That become a safety issue. That may lick things, to get a better sense of what it is because they can't really smell it. Oversensitive. Anything and everything can be overpowering. A certain perfume, a certain cologne that a person may wear, a teacher may wear, may cause behavioral issues and we don't understand what it is. Walk into a cafeteria and it's just all those smells from all those different people or whatever may be cooking, it can be an issue. Walk into a new building, a new place. All those things can throw somebody off. You're just like, oh, that's just disgusting. Think about something that we like. That's why when you go someplace and you buy all those scented waxes, there's 50 different because we all like different things. Some we can't stand and some we really like. Same thing on the autism spectrum. There's that variety of what people do and do not like. Shampoos, why aren't they using a shampoo? Well, because the smell is just horrendous to them. Next one we have taste. Like very spicy food because they have an undersensitive palate. Eat non-edible things, stones, dirt, soil, grass, metal, sometimes feces. This is known as pica also. Everything will go into their mouth. Once again, it can become a serious safety concern. Oversensitive can be extremely restrictive in what they will eat, and this can become a safety issue where I've had students who only eat white food or only orange food or only yellow food. And it's difficult for a parent or anybody, a provider, to find those food to give them nutrition. And all of a sudden you get all the orange food, and the next day now it's only yellow food, and it changes just like that. They have that routine. They've eaten the same lunch for the past 15 years in the exact same order. And if that's not there, you might as well throw the whole day in disarray, because they like that routine. And that comes back to the routines, oversensitive, all those kind of issues. That texture, certain textures of certain food, just forget it. They won't do it. The next one, touch. Now you always hear about the people say, oh, people on the autism spectrum don't like to be touched. Just like everybody else, neurotypical people, some people like to be touched, some do not. My students, from what I had from younger up to high school, overwhelming majority love handshakes, hugs, touch, squeeze, scratch, whatever those kind of things. And there are others, forget it, they just don't want that. So you have undersensitivity. So when they give a hug, they're like just trying to crush your ribs. That sensation, they like that pressure. High pain threshold, okay? May not be able to feel the food, may do self-harm because they're unsensitive. They don't feel that. They biting on their hands. They have arms. They'll have scars on their hands and their arms and things like that. That's where you get the weighted blankets or the weighted vests, because they're undersensitive to that touch. Chew on things, including clothing, unedible objects. That's why we'll get pencils, and we'll get like chew tips on the back of pencils or pens. They can kind of chew on that as they're doing that. Oversensitive. Touch can be excruciatingly painful. All these things we're talking about with sensory issues, remember, the largest organ of your body is your skin. So if your skin is incredibly sensitive, any kind of touch, think about what a shower can do to you. It can be extremely painful. Just don't like anything on hands or feet. They walk in, it's always a difficult time keeping their socks and their shoes on, or going outside, the gloves on, or even clothes on. Brushing, washing hair, teeth, all those kind of things, they're oversensitive, can be extremely painful. They don't want to go to a doctor, they don't want to go to a dentist, so they have to go to a specialist, and they do whatever they have to do to make sure their health care is taken care of. Only certain types of clothing or textures. That's why a parent, sometimes they find a shirt that their son or daughter will like, and all of a sudden they'll order a dozen of those items because they like it, and we're going to do it, and we're going to wear these out until all of a sudden changes, and we're going to keep that person comfortable. The next one, and we talked about balance. Balance can be a major, major issue. Undersensitive. They need to rock, swing, spin to get some sort of sensory input. You see that as a lot stereotypical. When they see the person rocking, that's stereotypical. Not all of them need to do that. We talk about a grounding. My students in my classroom, on their desks, they have these little blow up things. They don't constantly keep them going. We have a swing in there. They like to sit on that and spin, looking for sensory input. Okay, oversensitivity, extreme difficulty with sports. Can't get stopped quickly. Car sickness, motion sickness. The head is not upright and feet are not on the ground. Extreme difficult for them to do those type of activities. Body awareness, undersensitive. Close talker, like in Seinfeld, there's a close talker. I have a student, I'm always like, we're working on personal space all the time. That undersensitive to body awareness. May bump into people. How do we get around rooms and obstacles and obstructions? Everything seems to be in the way, bumping into everything. May have to move things around for safety issues. Oversensitive, fine motor skills, manipulating small objects, buttons, shoelaces, pencils. Those can be extremely difficult. Moves their whole body to look at something and not just their head, all those kind of stuff. Next thing I want to talk about, synesthesia. Rare condition, okay? Tends to be more women than men, tend to be with left-handed, neurologically normal, and it tends to be in the same family. What that means is they'll take input one way and it goes output. They can see colors or they can taste sounds. There have been people who have the ability to explain that to us. It's incredibly fascinating. At least I find so. So all of a sudden, they picture something and spell a word. I've seen it where to spell the word, they'll put their pictures in a row, then they can spell it that way, or anything like that. It's very rare. Still more research needs to be done to do this. Also, neurotypical people can experience this, not quite as high percentage, but a high percentage or more realistic going around with people with autism spectrum disorder. Okay, so sensory issues. As always, I'm going to put some on my YouTube and on my lennylifts.org. You can go more in depth, get some more information about this. Any questions, DM me Instagram, Facebook, lennylifts1@gmail.com. Go to lennylifts.org and lennylifts on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Any questions, please let me know. Just an average guy in Central Pennsylvania trying to make a difference. Get out there, have a great day, and be kind.